Hello, critics. This is RatedT.S.M, and this is episode 6 of Campus Life. Tonight, I will be discussing relationships, both friendships and romantic relationships. Obviously, in high school, you were surrounded by same people and same faces 5 days a week for 7 to 8 hours a day, and you just made friends, people who are similar to you. Now, if you're graduating high school, or if you already graduated, you probably realized all those friends, especially if you live in the city, this really mostly applies if you live in the city, are not going to stay with you forever. They're going to be people who you're interested or in hang out with, and people who you're not so interested. People who are just your friends for high school, and people, like, I don't vibe with you anymore for various reasons, whatever those reasons may be. Whether they're justified or not. And when it comes to college, making friends is different. I would even say way different. Some people might say that it's similar in the sense that you make friends in your classes and at clubs, but in high school, at least in my high school, we had 7 periods, so I'll use my high school as an example. In high school, we had 7 periods, and basically, yes, your free time is different because there are 7 periods of lunch. Yes, even first period lunch, which means you really don't get any break at all, and 7th period lunch, which means you really don't even get to eat anything at all, but you at least get to go home early if you had 7 period lunch. And you would be taking the same classes every day, so you see the same faces every day at the same time, usually, maybe with some exceptions depending on your high school. Like, I had a lab sophomore year, and so we got only 4 days of African American history, and that 6th day was for the lab. But yeah, that's pretty much how it worked. Whereas in college, at least at my college, I don't know how it works for anybody else's college, but for my college, I'm sure most colleges have 8 a.m.s, but mine, it goes from 8 a.m. is the earliest your class can start. And I think 10 p.m., or I would just say 2200 hours, that's the latest your class could end. Which means you could be having a class at 9 o'clock at night. And I wouldn't personally ever pick a class at a time like that, but if you're a freshman, at least first semester, you don't get to pick your classes. So you might meet people in your orientation group, and some of them may or may not have classes as you. In my orientation group, nobody had the same major as me, and nobody had any similar classes to me. And my schedule was really, really good. Like, the way it was set up was just beautiful. Their schedules were pretty crappy in terms of how they were set up, and some people, they would have a class maybe just 1 day a week, whereas, in high school, same classes every day, same time every day. 7 days a week. I mean, not 7, 5 days a week. And there were even Saturday classes at my university. So that was also a thing. And considering all of that, your schedules, those people that you meet in orientation, those first 3 days where you're not doing any class and you just get to hang out with people and enjoy spending your time together with, these people who are also first-year students like you. Yeah, it's just gonna might be just way different for you. Now, if you somehow manage to meet people who are all have the same classes as you, or all have similar schedules, then that's great. But, for the most part, that's probably not going to be the case. And not only that, do not expect that you're going to be friends with your orientation group until you graduate. Because I am only friends with one person from my orientation group. And if you watch my episode 5 of Campus Life, then that person is Eric. Mira TV, she is a year higher than me. So yeah, she wasn't in my, so obviously she wasn't doing orientation with me. I met her just one day randomly in a dining hall. Which is one way that you can meet people. So, some of my friends, that's how I met them. Just randomly. I was just told, like they were like, hey, come sit with us. Stuff like that. And, you make friends that way. Or you can make friends through clubs. And I will do a whole video episode on clubs later. But as for now, when it comes to clubs, that's a great way to make friends. And because, one, you're most likely being surrounded by people who have some interest or similar interest into the thing that the club is about. For instance, for me, I'm interested in cultural things, and I'm a history major too. So, that's part of it. But I'm also a pretty spiritual person, and I'm Christian. So, I like to attend Christian clubs, and I like to attend cultural clubs. Those are my favorite things to attend. Nobody in my orientation group, at least that I can remember, does any of that stuff. And because I'm only friends with Eric, yeah, like he doesn't do any of that stuff. He'd be willing to go to the cultural ones, but the Christian ones, if he whether or not he would go to that because he's not Christian, like he might, I don't know. Sometimes non-Christians do stuff like that, but generally probably not. And it's great to make friends in those cultural clubs because, like, oh, I can talk about my interests with you. For instance, the newly upcoming Korean club that Mir TV will be the president of, and I will be the vice president and treasurer of, because nobody wanted to be treasurer, and we really needed a treasurer. So I took on 2 roles, and we have similar ideas about how the club should be run, and similar ideas about what we want the club to be about. For instance, K-pop and K-drama. We do not want the club to succumb and become that. No, because that is not all that Korea is about. Not only that, if you're going to make a cultural club, you should really not focus on like the pop culture aspect. You should a little bit, but that's really, the historical aspect is really important. And that's one reason why we're friends, because of the fact that we have similar interests. And obviously we don't always agree on things, but we don't argue about things that we don't necessarily agree on. We just have common disagreements, like, okay, I hear your side, she hears my side, and we may not, sometimes it's like either you come to a compromise or you just, settle it's like, okay, disagree. It's okay that we disagree and have differing opinions, kind of thing. And another way, I guess, you could consider making friends is, although this doesn't always work, trust me when I say it does not always work, is you can make friends with people that live in the dorms. Whether it be your roommate, which don't expect that your roommate is going to be your best friend, even if they're like a great person. Don't expect that, because they could be a really great roommate, a really great person, and you just never talk to them again. Because that's kind of just how things work sometimes in life. You just stop talking to people for whatever reason that may be. And then there are people who are around you that live in your hall. Now, I left my door open so that I was hoping maybe someone would come and talk to me. That didn't happen at all. Nobody came to talk to me, and nobody else really kept their door open. So, I just closed my door. And I made no friends on my floor. There was one guy who was pretty creepy on my floor, but he wasn't really that creepy. He was just weird. He did weird stuff. And he ended up being in one of my classes, I found out. So I just kind of nixed that dream of making friends that lived in my building. And now, if you go to a small college, this might work, but definitely I go to a mid-sized college with about, I'd say, it's about 18,000 students. So, it's kind of harder at a bigger college, especially since if you're surrounded by upperclassmen, which I was, they probably already have their friend groups, and it's a little hard to sneak into an upperclassman friend group. It is possible, but it's a little hard. Most of my friends that I made, I can say, successfully were either international students, because I did a bunch of cultural clubs, or the upperclassmen that were part of the clubs, like the cabinet members, or people. Actually, I didn't really make that many friends that were that are my year, surprisingly. I think Eric is the only person that's really my friend that I made that are my year. I definitely suggest that you try to make friends who are in your year, but, it may or may not always work out. And maybe, make a freshman friend or two to try to help guide them around campus and stuff. So, there are many different ways that you can make friends. But when it comes to relationships, listen, I'm going to say one thing. And that's why I didn't bother saying anything until the end, because I only really have to say one thing. Do not mess yourself up with a relationship your first year. I'm not saying don't date, don't do anything sexual or anything like that if that's what you want to do. But don't ruin your life for that, because I do know about one girl from a friend. Oh yeah, I have another friend who is also in my year. Okay, yeah. But she told me about basically her roommate and how her roommate had a boyfriend who was trash. And basically that's why she was flunking. And she ended up leaving Westchester because she was flunking and whatnot. Like, by choice though. And her boyfriend left with her. Basically, that guy was trash. me, that's me. So do not mess yourself up with a relationship, people. Focus on what you went to go to school for. And you did not go to school to get yourself messed up by anybody. You can do bad all by yourself, as that Tyler Perry movie suggests. And yes, you can date if you want to, but I highly recommend that you focus on what's important. Making friends, and probably, if you're interested in any of them, probably dating people who you've been friends with, who you know are stable and on the right path, rather than just going around dating anybody, just flirting and whatnot. So that is all for episode 6. And I guess my next episode is either going to be on scholarships or clubs and activities. I'm not quite sure yet. Anyway, I will decide that later. Good night, critics. As you can tell,